nobody knows what you are.
I was concerned about going out into the world and doing something bigger than myself until someone smarter than myself made me realize there is nothing bigger than myself.
But if you don't believe, nobody else is going to believe.
To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did.
Welcome back to Paper Trails. It's your boy Mohamed. Shuayb is not here to join me today. He had some train issues apparently, so brother didn't hustle, man. He didn't read the book that we recommended this week. But yeah, joined by a special guest today, Shuayb from Pivot2Tech. I'll give you a quick intro, but first, just a quick brief for people new listening to the podcast. We are Paper Trails under the brand of Inspyre. We've been running this podcast for quite some time where we read books with each other, review them, and then get interesting guests on to talk about the books. Sometimes we get authors, sometimes we get content creators, sometimes we get people who've created a whole brand behind education and things like that. So someone like Shuayb, for example, today is a very good guest. So yeah, I hope he brings the fire, the energy. Don't worry, I'm all right. I'll make sure that, that I carry it if you don't. But we'll get cracking. So Shuayb, how you been, man?
I'm good, bro. Thank you for having me. Not bad.
This is your third podcast you've been on.
Yes.
Because I remember you
Second
tweeted.
video one. Yeah, I wanted 4. I was like, what did I say? It was a while ago. I tweeted.
Bro's always tweeting, he's going to have me on that podcast. He's always going to have me on the podcast.
Yeah, I was complaining. I've got X amount of followers. I should be on podcasts. So this is my third one. Got one more. I'm trying to bang them out, man.
So man, with the way people are talking about podcasts these days, are you sure? Are you sure you want to be on podcasts?
I want to be on all of them. I'm joking. No. It's good to get in. It's good to get used to video content. And just talking about your journey, talking about what you do, talking about why you do it.
It's public speaking in a sense. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So like we had recently Hassan Kuba who wrote The Unfair Advantage, the author, and yeah, he was talking about like all the public speaking he does, and like you can really tell from the way he speaks, he's very like measured. He's like, when I was listening to him, I was like, I gotta fix up because I'm quite a fast talker.
It's a skill, man. Yeah, me too. I'm the exact same. If you, I don't even want to say, but if you watch my other podcast, my last one, it was my first video based one. And it was on YouTube. It was cut up into shorts on Instagram and Twitter. And maybe for like 2 weeks, I've refused to watch it back because I knew I would just cringe. You know I was talking fast. There was, when you just like go hard, just be hard on yourself, or just like something you do for your first time. But I know I want to just get it out there.
Did you get any feedback from people to say that like, nah, you're actually alright?
Everyone said it was good.
Yeah.
Everyone that I've asked said it was good. My mom saw it and she put it on the family group chat. Like, mashallah. I was like, why are you watching it? It's not. I don't know. Like, I think what was said, the guests, the actual podcast was good, but I was criticizing myself a lot. I have a stammer, and I don't know if it showed that much in the video, but I talk fast to kind of like combat it. Yeah. So that's kind of, I think, why it didn't go as well. But you live and learn, right?
Cool. So it's interesting because we've known each other a few years now. And our background is, funnily enough, like we went to the same college, same teachers.
Still find that funny, man.
And we live very locally to each other. We met like from online, innit? So, Twitter, yeah. So it's weird, but yeah, it's such a small world, don't you think? Like it's really weird. But a bit about you. So you run Pivot2Tech, the Pivot2Tech bootcamp, where you teach people how to gain freelance skills in tech and any other kind of freelance space they want to be in, and now you're planning to expand that to data analytics, I think.
Yeah, soon. I don't know when this podcast will be out, but hopefully by then we'll release the cohorts or release applications. So it'll be the same format we have. So bit of background, we've got 2 main courses. So we teach software engineering, which is kind of how I started, and we teach freelance web and digital marketing. So there's a lot of boot camps out there, the UK, that just teach like how to get into tech, 9-to-5 job, like software engineering, UI, UX, whatnot. But there's hardly any on digital marketing and freelancing. Like not everybody wants to just find another 9-to-5 job or change their careers, especially if they've been working a career for 5+ years. It's hard to go into an entry role in tech, even though you can go up in salary quite fast. But people want to make money online. There's the whole thing of I don't know, Forex, or literally anything else. But freelancing is how I started and how I make a living now. So the idea was to get people started with that, and I do it in web design and digital marketing. So that's what we teach.
So in terms of your actual background, so you worked in the NHS before. You told me some interesting stories about that. And yeah, like when you were like in the NHS, at what point did you think that I want to start like not doing your own thing, but like doing your own thing within the tech space?
Yeah, so I wanted to leave radiography before I finished my degree. Actually, like I never
You wanted to what?
leave radiography,
Oh, leave, yeah.
which is what I was doing, which is my degree, radiotherapy to be more precise.
Mm-hmm.
During my third year, that's when I was like, look, I need something to get out of this. Like, but I just finished my degree. I know I needed to make some money,
Yeah.
so I just firmed there and just continued working
Mm-hmm.
in the NHS. And just before I got my first job, I was just browsing YouTube and went through a few rabbit holes, on it was on traveling at first, traveling world, digital nomad. That kind of scene was what my YouTube recommendation was full of.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just procrastinating during my dissertation, watching video after video. I was just doing that, and then I came across one guy, Chris the Freelancer.
Yeah.
And I still watch him now, but he's not really as active. And he used to be an accountant, so again from a non-tech background, and then taught himself to code, and then landed a job, I think, as a front-end developer, and then found a remote role. This was back in 2016, where remote roles weren't that popular, but in tech, I think they were still quite popular. Then moved to like Thailand, Indonesia, done the whole traveling thing, went freelance with Shopify, and basically continued to serve clients and serve clients from Australia, because that's where he lived, to and living wherever he wants, basically. And I was watching his videos, and I was watching all his vlogs, and I was like, this is what I want. This looks really interesting. You can travel and work at the same time. And back then, I traveled a little bit, but just normal holidays, so it wasn't anything crazy. And I just wanted to continue doing that. That's all I wanted. I didn't really care too much about, making a lot of money or whatever. It's just, how can I find a way to travel and work while doing something interesting, at least semi-interesting, That's when I found what he did. I think he has a podcast, and he has a few mini courses on free, just on YouTube.
Yeah. And
I watched what he does, and it's like, okay, so it's web development, coding. He has a non-coding background. How do I do it? And then once I find out what he does, and I realized, okay, I can do that too, since he did it. Let me pause what I'm doing and basically continue my dissertation and my degree. And let me finish that first before I get back to my plan, which will be, okay, this is where I want to go after radiography. So got my job, moved out of home, which was an experience. And then just kind of put my head down and made a plan for myself to learn to code, just the basics. And then eventually I knew that I could get a job, because I was seeing all these people find a job. Self-taught web developer was a thing. I thought, okay, this is not that difficult. He's done it. Other people have done it. Why can't I do it? So, yeah, that's kind of how it started. And I didn't hate the NHS, but I knew in 5 years' time I wouldn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Or even 3 years' time. So I thought, let me just leave now. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
So you talk a lot about making money online, freelancing, everything you just mentioned. In terms of, like, for me, like, one of the biggest obstacles for a lot of people is bravery as well. Like you mentioned earlier, people don't want to start from scratch with a fresh new beginner salary and then work their way up again. Like, that takes a long time, and that's like a big jump. For you, what was it like in terms of dealing with your family as well? What was the reaction from your parents? Because I feel like a lot of people from our kind of background have that backlash. How did you deal with that? Because I have had a similar experience myself, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I didn't tell them for a long time. My parents knew that I was learning and knew that I eventually wanted to get into a different field, but they thought that, the NHS is a lot more secure, and it is. It's the public sector. It is a lot more secure, which is one of the reasons why my dad pushed me to do radiography. But I knew I needed to prove to them that, hey, I can do this and get a job offer. So I don't need to tell you if I've done it or not. Let me just do it. Once I've done it, then they can't really say anything. Okay, well, you done it. continue, you know. So I kind of needed them to believe in me. I believe in myself, but I needed them to believe in me, and fortunately, I needed to kind of prove myself first. And they knew I was doing the whole freelance thing as well, so they knew there was some money in this. My dad actually, a while ago, before I started radiography, when I was like 20, he told me to do IT instead of NHS. But I don't know why I didn't listen to him. I should have listened to him. He told me to do an apprenticeship, not go uni, whatever.
Really?
Yeah, he literally told me to do that. He was like, it's a lot better to, you know, just get into IT, because I was always good at, I always liked
Yeah, you're the guy that was restarting the router and that.
Yeah, literally. I was the IT guy, but more about hardware and like,
Yeah.
you know, torrenting software and all that crap. You know, it was just when I was young.
Yeah.
But I never knew that. I don't know why I didn't listen. Like, that's always been not a regret, but I think something I always think about, because I went full circle, went back to it, right? So
Weird. So like, at what point were you like, all right, let's say you're, so funnily enough, both of us studied biomedical science in college, yeah? Yeah. Now we're both working in the tech field. Like for me personally, I knew from the jump, like while I was doing that I'm never staying in like the medical side. I did physiotherapy in uni for 1 year, and I dropped out, and I knew like straight away I want to get into tech, mainly because of my background. Like I was always into computers and that. But what would you say like pushed you? Because you said that like your dad kind of directed you towards radiotherapy, but that wasn't really something you wanted to do, right? Or was it just like you're just going with the flow because you just finished college?
Yeah, I was young. I wanted the uni experience. But I'm glad, like in a way, I'm glad I worked in the NHS, because you learn a lot about obviously cancer, because that's what my field was, oncology, radiotherapy and oncology, but also working in a team, your communication skills. That I'm glad I picked up those skills. But working, studying and going to uni and having that vision of, oh, uni will be like, if I don't go uni, I'll miss out. That I don't think was smart, because NHS courses were, before I think a couple of years ago, they were free. So I'm not in debt or anything, so that was a good thing.
All right.
But I didn't really, I don't think an 18-year-old knows, like can predict 4 years into the future.
Yeah, no one can.
Yeah, but it's like they can't make choices at that young.
Yeah.
For the next 3-4 years, or if they flop a year or whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I tweet about this. I don't think the university model is
yeah,
good.
I've always had like major gripes with that, and I've always said it. Like even during college, I was telling them like, first of all, I was applying for, like you go for UCAS, right? And you're applying for degrees and stuff. Like in a field like in medical fields, or in a lot of the higher like more established positions, doctors and all this, like you have to have work experience as well to get into a good uni and stuff like that. Yeah, you got to have a lot of good like extracurricular activities that are going on. Like in physiotherapy, I found out in like the last 6 months of my my biomedical course that I've got to have like 1 year of work experience or something somewhere. I'm like, bro, I was studying full time. I'm 17, 18, whatever. How am I meant to like go and so like the last 2 months of finishing my my modules, I was just going around to physiotherapy offices, knocking on the doors, like, oh, can I do work experience with you? The whole time I didn't even want to do it. It's just like this is the only route that I feel like is accessible to me right now.
Stuck when you're in that degree. When you're doing a degree, you're stuck doing that and you can't do anything else. You're broke for 3 or 4 years. You feel like you have to finish this, and if you don't, you're a failure or whatever. But like those 8 months of learning to code, I've learned more during that time in my entire degree about what's ahead of me, what the real working world is about. Uni with assignments and exams, that's not life. So I think soon, maybe the next 5-10 years, online education will take over.
I think it already is. I think there's a big gap. That's already occurring for the last few years. People like in our age bracket, I've noticed we've kind of went with the flow kind of thing. Yeah. But I noticed a lot of younger people, even from 2 years younger than me, like my younger brothers, younger cousins, they literally like just don't go uni. They just coast kind of thing. And in like looking outside looking in, it kind of looks like they just a lot of them like just go straight into work, like, oh, they just want money, whatever. Like I got brothers in security work and all this stuff, cousins doing that kind of stuff. But it's also like they're taking their time to think about what they really want to do. And I've noticed that a lot more in the last couple of years or so than people just being rushed into their kind of degrees or whatever.
University is a business.
Yeah,
Especially-
exactly.
Especially since they upped the price to 9K a year, it's more than that now, I think. It's in their favor to get those 18-year-olds into uni, make them pay X amount, get them to debt until like 30 or 50 or whatever it is. But I don't know. I think something has to change where people realize that $100 course will get you more prepared for a life in. It doesn't have to be tech. It can be something related to it. It can be business. It can be whatever. Content creation. There's actually a course now from a government-funded training provider called content creation. Literally, that's where everything's going now. Soon the universities are going to pick it up. Content creation 3 years. Jacking money for 3 years doing content creation. Because they know that they're getting worried. All these, I think now there's a stat saying that most Gen Z
They want to be content
wanna be
creators
YouTubers,
professionally.
yeah, content creators, TikTok creators, whatever. Because they think it's a lot more fun. It is fun, to be fair, but it's basically the modern version of what journalism is, right? And TV and
Sometimes I'm watching YouTube and I see like really highly produced stuff, and I'm thinking like I used to see this kind of stuff on TV. Like
literally,
whole teams used to create this, but now it's like one person doing
one
this.
person, hire out a room.
And it is like the advent of technology has improved a lot of all these AI tools and all this stuff. Like it's helped out a lot. But yeah, like I personally think that there is already something like that kind. As you said, with that kind of stat, that's not by accident. I think because we're in the age of where technology is advancing so fast, like younger people are just exposed to things that we weren't exposed to when we were younger.
Mr. Beast, KSI.
Yeah, like I watched that.
Like
I want to be like them. What do you mean, man? I watched that Mr. Beast video.
Cringe, man.
Mr. Beast video with all the countries in the world competing. Did you see that? It was recently.
I don't know.
I wasn't even planning to watch it, but I was in Scotland with
He's
friends.
there, like literally on the. If you're signed out of YouTube,
He's there, like every front
literally.
page. Yeah, but like I think like we're already moving into that space, and like there's people that want to be content creators. There's people that see people traveling and working at the same time. Also because of COVID, I think freelance. Everything's changed. Everything's changed.
Freelancing, contracting, having your own business.
Yeah.
The reason why I push freelancing so much is because it's the best business to start, because you don't have a product or you're not really making a service from scratch. You're just learning your skills and monetizing it. So it's the best business to start for any beginner, because you haven't got much to lose. All you have to do is just find that first client, which always happens to be family friend, a neighbor, friend, or whatever. And then from there, you learn everything about business, outsourcing, finances, scaling to an agency. And from there, start an online course or something. Or make content to get inbound leads. And it could be anything. It could be copywriting, email marketing.
Yeah.
What else? Even like how to start a YouTube channel. People like freelancing anything. As long as you've got a skill, and there's someone else, a business or a small business or an individual who doesn't have that skill or doesn't have the time, people will be willing to pay you stupid numbers just to do one thing. And that's what I don't think uni teaches now anyway, or even school.
Yeah. I don't think school prepares you at all for that kind of stuff. Even like people skills and stuff like that. I feel like you in school you grow up with, like you got your seating plan.
Macbeth, what the hell?
Yeah.
What am I gonna do with Macbeth?
Yeah, like I would say, like I already had an interest in like literature and reading a lot when I was younger. Yeah, just because it was like escapism for me. And I didn't have a lot of like I didn't grow up with video game consoles until in like my mid-teens. So I was reading a lot. And I noticed like in school, it did help me like stand out a bit in terms of like I was ahead of most of my classes in terms of when it comes to English. Like I was writing really good quality stuff. I was reading at advanced rate and analyzing what I was reading very well. So like the teacher were rating it. But I know a lot of people that went through that period that didn't have any like literature background, and now they're doing pretty well for themselves regardless. So like you really didn't need to like be forced to learn all this kind of stuff in school. And like, I'm sure in an ideal world we could like redesign the whole curriculum, but the capitalism.
Yeah, they get you into the. I think I don't know 5 or 10 years ago, when like what was the most popular job after uni?
It's gotta be
marketing, sales, or something. I don't know. Like,
what do you mean popular?
As in like what's
what people
what job
go towards in general? Oh, the standards: doctors, accountants, barristers, whatever.
And I think law or something like that.
Law.
I think uni preps you for those kind of jobs, you know, especially medicine, even medicine actually. They announced they're going to do an apprenticeship on medicine.
Yeah.
Like a 2-year thing. I think that's a desperate attempt to keep.
Yeah, because the NHS is dying. It's literally dying. So
even Michael's, imagine after I finished my degree, I found out that they're making a 2-year course for it, an apprenticeship for it.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to work for all those years.
Yeah. I think
It's so stupid.
yeah, it's changing in a weird way because it's like people that are in charge
They're all boomers. They don't know what they're doing.
We can literally see they don't know what they're doing. But the nice thing is because of technology and social media, younger people are aware of this from a younger age. They know, yo, these guys don't know what they're talking about, and they see
go
it.
to uni or do something.
They see people like you, for example, with boot camps and stuff. There's like adverts everywhere on Instagram. You go past a story. Oh, here's a boot camp. Here's a boot camp. Do this and do this.
You notice, yeah. I thought it was just me because I also have those ads as well.
Yeah, I think obviously there is targeted ads, but I know there's more and more of them nowadays than there ever used to be.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And people want to make money more than anything because obviously you got the cost of living and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like I think people are researching ways of making money, and when you're like actively always like promoting, this is how you can.
Eventually, they'll just click on.
Yeah, this is how you can make money. I think people are being funneled into that direction just simply because of the nature of society right now, the way things are going. But it's good to see that people are taking their time a bit more, in my opinion. But there's a fine balance. Like people tend to also procrastinate. Like young people, they seem to like just coast for like way more longer, like uncomfortably long than what they actually should be doing. So, like for me, I recommend, a lot of boys, young males that are like they're doing all right. Like the families aren't like dying, like in terms of like poverty and stuff. Like they've got a decent background, like they're going through school, but then they just don't know what they want to do next, and they just pause everything. Like that's it. I'm just gonna coast. And I've noticed.
If I got a job, I can just continue.
Yeah, I've noticed they just like coast in a like uncomfortably long position for like 3, 4, 5 until they get to their mid-20s, and then they're like, okay, I want to do a boot camp or something, which is positive. But I think there's a fine balance that needs to be struck. Like people need to kind of push towards like just trying things out rather than like just waiting until they think something's ideal for them. And that's like just the nature of young people right now.
The reason why that is most people stop learning after uni. So once you finish uni, you're like, okay, well, I'm done now. I can just work, and they stop learning. That's the difference between people who excel in their career very quickly, or career or business or whatever, and people like you said who just coast for years and then decide, okay, well, I need to make more money. I'm still on the same salary or similar salary. What can I do? That's when they go on YouTube or find ways to make money. But then by then it's like they're either close to getting married, or maybe they already get married or have kids, or they're just older, have more responsibilities, so they don't have the time, or they don't feel like they have the time to work on those things. Because I think in the book, which we'll talk about soon, the author talks about how everyone or most people have a very long list of things they want to do. Yeah. But they can only do maybe 5 or even 3 of those things properly. Yeah. I think he said he interviewed Warren Buffett and he asked him like, what should I focus on in my life? But yeah, so I actually wanted to go into that next. So we read the book 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, book you recommended. First of all, I give you a selection of books that what would you recommend? You gave me a few, and then you decided to go to that one. So why was that? I think that was the one I was reading at the moment, and it applies to my life mostly. Yeah. So it's interesting. So the 4,000 weeks is basically meant to be like our lifespan kind of thing, right? Yeah. 4,000 like the average lifespan. When you put it like that, it's kind of it sounds it's short, isn't it? Quite short. Yeah, and it's funny because I read a book recently called Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia. He's got another podcast and a YouTube channel where he talks about a lot of similar concepts, but it's more about like health more than time, but they kind of interlink anyway. So like I feel like I've been covering that topic a lot recently. Especially I went to Scotland and I climbed a small mountain. Whoa, my legs were finished. Called Ben Lomond. Which one is it? Ben Lomond. So it's 950 meters high. I think Ben Nevis is like 1,000. Yeah, Ben Nevis is huge. Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember. I think Ben Nevis is like 1,500 or something. So it's like 600, 700 meters higher. And I don't know how steep it is, or whatever. But how long did it take you?
Up and down 4 hours 45 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
So apparently that's faster than average because literally it was getting dark on the way
So
down.
you had to, yeah.
Yeah, on the way down, we got there late because it was raining during the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started at like 4 p.m. ish, and then we like casually went up and there was a group of 9, and only 4 people reached the top.
Well, people gave up halfway.
People gave up halfway. Yeah,
Wow.
people gave up less than halfway.
Wow.
But yeah, I reached the top first, didn't it? And on the way down, we literally had to jog and we were finished by that point. Like, cause it's like I never knew because this is the first time I climbed a small mountain. Like, I've never climbed a mountain. Period. Yeah, it's called the Monroe actually, like a small mountain.
Oh, you'll love Wales, man.
Yeah. So I never knew like what it would take to kind of push to actually get into the summit. So like you see one peak and you think, okay, there it is.
No.
And then you keep going. And then, another one over and over again. And like it kind of really pushed me mentally more than physically. Like, every step was just like, all right, you can do more, you can do more. And then when my guys started struggling, they started turning back. I was like, oof, don't want to be in the car. Like I can't lie like that. But yeah, we managed to get to the top, and like all these books that I've been reading lately, like Outlive that I mentioned by Dr. Pivot2Tech, this 4,000 weeks, it really made me think like, yo, what am I doing in my life and my health right now that I'm like, am I really getting towards where I want to be? But yeah, this book, 4,000 Weeks, about the average lifespan, how we deal with it, how there's this constant pressure of I've got to do this with my time, but I also don't know where any of my time is going. I think I've seen you often tweet about that kind of stuff, and waking up early and doing things to manage your time in a better way. I feel like a lot of people don't do that, but it's also about accepting that time is finite, is not infinite. And if we like have too much on our plates and have too many priorities and hobbies and all these things going on, eventually we're just going to burn out. We're not going to do anything of a real, we're not going to achieve anything of real note. And yeah, he kind of talked about different ways to tackle that. So he kind of, first he gave a bunch of case studies where he kind of just talked about, oh, this is how this person dealt with it. And then he started giving examples of where he asked like famous people how they dealt with it for themselves. So an example of Warren Buffett, where he said, all right, give me 25 things you want to achieve before you die. And then, yeah, only stick with the first 5. Like, that's really...
Throw the rest, throw 6 to 25 away.
Yeah.
And only do the first
5.
Yeah, 5. Because it's true, you can't get everything done.
Yeah.
And I think what he said in particular was you can't expect to do all the rest of the appealing things,
Mm-hmm.
like the things that you kind of want to do, but you know you won't have time to.
Mm-hmm.
Throw those away, because most people don't. Most people have that list. Even me, I have a dumb list of things that aren't all to do with work, but just a list of things I want to do before I die. But it's unrealistic to do all of them. So having like a list, like an open list and a closed list. So things that you can afford not to do, and things that you know you really want to do, and then prioritize them from the most important to the least important, and then just tackle the first 3. That's something I'm still working on, because you can never, like, it's hard to realize what's more important.
Yeah.
When you're still doing them, you know, like if you're doing a project and you think, okay, that's the most important thing, that might fail, things might happen, that business might flop. The next important thing could be further down the list. So it's hard to balance for me personally.
You know, so first of all, why did you specifically say, all right, this is the book that I want to talk about on the podcast then? Because you maybe it was fresh in your mind, but you also had other books that you suggested as well.
Yeah, so I chose the 4,000 Weeks because I like to read books that I need in my life right now. So a problem that I have or something that I think about, if there's a book relating to it, I'd want to buy it and read it. So 4,000 books. I struggle doing too much, basically, right? So productivity and all that toxic work culture and all that crap that I push on Twitter sometimes.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So I'm being a bit hypocritical, but it talks about a side of productivity that isn't talked about. I think the author, he was on Diary of a CEO as well,
right,
a couple of years ago, and he spoke about that quite a bit, basically. I mean, he just went through the book pretty much. So yeah.
So what So for me, I see you as someone who's always working. Yeah, and we even have discussions around this sometimes where I'm like, yo, you need to take a holiday where you're not doing work, because for me, I know I've always been in that kind of state. Like even in the Scotland trip I went to, I brought my laptop with me, but I never really opened it at the end because there was a point where I was like, nah, I need to switch off because I've been really burning myself out recently. I've been doing a lot of graphic design stuff, web design stuff, and I'm on top of my 9 to 5, which has been a lot of new information. So I said, let me just switch off. But for you, I kind of ask you why you do that, but you kind of responded regarding, obviously, you want to get things done right now. I think people really underestimate having phases in your life. Like you can't always be grinding, you can't always be chilling, and even all this the hustle culture. Like obviously these people that are always saying that they're hustling, they're not 24/7 doing that. They're finding times in their lives. You see it on their own Instagrams when they're on yachts, they're on helicopters, they're on private jets. Well, are they working the whole time? No way. So like it's interesting, but I think people really have to balance that. Like you need to know right now, do you need to work hard or can you relax a bit? Like you can't always be working, like burning yourself out. But also there, like you said, there has to be an acceptance that time is limited. We need to really prioritize what we really want to do and accept that like all these other ideas that sound beautiful in your head just aren't gonna work out as well if you try and do all of them at the same time. So that's kind of the main takeaway I kind of got away from this book. But for you, was there anything like that was really insightful that like you didn't really know or you didn't think of before you read the book and after?
So there was a couple of things. He talks about solutions towards the end of the book, and a few things like sort of tactics you can use to realize that your time on this earth is finite, but you can still do what you want to do. So this is kind of a mix between this book and another book called Essentialism. And the idea is once, like, let's say you plan out your week and you plan out your day and you have like a bunch of things on your to-do list, you on purpose do less than you know you can do, if that makes sense. So be okay with finishing at 80%, not 100%. Yeah. That way you still have some left in the tank to continue tomorrow. So you're not burnt out after every day. I don't always follow this rule. But I think it's a good rule to have in the back of my mind, especially when I know that certain projects or like, I don't know, let's say a business is always a marathon rather than a sprint. So most things are a marathon, I think, rather than a sprint. So if you see it as a marathon, you know that, okay, you're not going to sprint from the first, from the start line. You're going to just jog or, just continue so you can actually get to the finish line. And the finish line is different for everyone. So, I don't know, financial freedom, being location dependent, time independent. It depends what your goals are for your business or your life. And then there's the other side, Dean, health, family. And those two things, I don't think they can be opposites. I don't think you need to separate your time with your family, your health, your Dean, and your business, because if that happens, if you separate them too much, I don't think you'll find balance. Yeah.
And in terms of like concepts that you talked about, I thought there were some really interesting ones, like the idea of like the efficiency trap that you mentioned. So like being like actively showing that you're really efficient, especially when you're not working for yourself. Even when you're working for yourself, you end up doing more than you can actually bear, because you show that you can do 5 jobs in 1 hour that someone else might take 2 hours to do. So then what are they going to do? They're going to give you more work. And even for yourself, you're self-employed, you might also find that you do that yourself, like
all the time. Yeah. It's hard because like let's say, obviously now we've got technology and you can order food instead of making food or whatever, things that save time. Instead of using that time to rest, I always just, and it's normal, I think a lot of people just use it to do more work. Yeah. And then the more work you do, the more work comes on your plate. So there's no point being too efficient. All these productivity tools and hacks and all of that, they were fun in the beginning when I was first learning about them, time management and being really efficient with what I'm doing. But after a while, you realize that you can't control every aspect of your time. Even the common advice that I give to when people are first learning how to code is figure out how you spend your week and allocate blocks of time to learn. That's not always realistic because when I did that, it was during COVID. There was lockdown, gyms were closed. I was living away, so I could afford to do that because I didn't have anything else to do. If I didn't have coding, I would have gone insane.
Yeah.
Like there's no like, everything was closed. It was lockdown. There's nothing else to do. So now, obviously, things are open up again. Everyone's doing things. People are, you know, if you have kids or you got a full-time job, whatever, it's difficult to allocate 1 hour a day. So now I tell people just do 30 minutes a day. Because if you do 30 minutes a day, once you learn the basics of a skill, that 30 minutes will turn into an hour, 2 hours, because you'll just be deep into it and you'll just enjoy it. And if you enjoy it, you keep doing more of it.
And like the reason why he kind of talked about this efficiency trap is because of like we're humans, we're like flesh and like we're made of like organic matter. We're not machines that can always work 24/7. And even mentally, there is a process of like just processing things emotionally, like mentally. Like you can't overburden yourself mentally because there's such a thing as decision fatigue, where you have so many decisions during the day that you start becoming inefficient because you have to take too many decisions because you try to do too much. I thought that was very interesting. Also, he mentioned the Jewish Sabbath, where they were banned from like fishing during a certain day of the week. I thought that was really interesting because it's like a religious way of looking at it, where they got told, yo, you don't need to chill, don't work.
It's isn't that it's similar in Islam where you can't fast on Fridays.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's
fast
like,
on Eid as well, like that's
so like even like within like Abrahamic religions, there's been scriptures that have said you lot need to chill out, basically, like live a balanced life as humans and accept that there's certain things that if you overdo, you're not gonna reap the benefit of them consistently in the long term. So I thought that was also very interesting. The other concept about paying yourself first, I thought he was just talking about money, where he was talking about like you get your salary, put your money to savings, put it into investments, and then let the rest of it trickle out to whether you're supporting a family, rent, all that stuff. But then he also started talking about putting yourself first in terms of your time as well. I think people can get easily distracted by often saying yes to things. And yeah, I've
saying yes too much kills you, man.
Yeah, I've been like that most of my life. I would say maybe over the last 5 years, I've improved a lot on that. But even now, like I went through a period where I was unemployed, so I was building up my agency, and I was taking up a lot of free projects. Like I wrote a list, like I can do this person's website, I can do this person's logo, I can do this person's website.
At the same time,
all at the same time, and I was at the same time applying for jobs and all this. And even when I started a new job, it was like, all right, I'll just continue on. But then there was a point where I just had to I just cancelled a whole bunch of people, like, yo, yeah, I know I talked about it, but sorry, man.
No, you can't. I mean, you're doing them a favor as well, because
yeah, exactly. The quality of your work is not going to match what they want anyway.
Exactly.
But yeah, I thought that was very interesting as well. But he talked about, like you said, schedule meetings with yourself in terms of blocking your time out.
Reflection as well. A lot of time to reflect. So you can. I like the term auditing your time. You know, so spending morning of the end of the week, a Sunday or something, or Friday, end of the work week, to look back and say, okay, how did I spend my time? What did I spend it on? Using your, on your phone, you can see how much you spend on each app. That as well, that helps. If you're spending 3 or 4 hours on one app, typically a social media app, it's just like TikTok. Yeah, it's stupid. Like and the thing is, they try and they're good at hijacking your attention. These apps, or just
they have professional psychologists at work.
Literally, yeah. So if you think of it like that, where people are like now seeing your attention is worth more than money. We're in an attention economy. It gets a bit sticky, man, because I think people should get more angry about that.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Like I rarely use TikTok these days, but there was a period where I was using it a lot. And every now and then I was coming across these videos where they tell a story, but it's split screen and the bottom half is just like Subway Surfers or whatever.
They still do that?
Or GTA, like random guy like doing some GTA map.
It's so bad.
And I always wonder, like, what the hell is that about? Yeah, why is but the whole time I'm there watching the GTA thing the whole time. I'm not even paying attention to the story like that.
It works. They keep you in the loop, and there's nothing at the end of it as well. There's no reward. There's no like you just for shit. After a while, you just realize, okay, what did I just watch? Or I think so. Homozy talks about this because that's what he uses for his content. Alex Homozy.
Yeah.
On like the framework is hook, retain, reward. But at least with that type of content, you're benefiting, learning how to make money, you're learning a new skill. But when it comes to random people making random content for laughs, like after a while, like what am I doing? In the book, he talks about that video they did in 2016, the watermelon, where for 46 minutes straight, almost an hour.
Yeah, the YouTube video.
How much is it? 600
elastic bands
of
rubber
elastics
bands.
just around the watermelon until it explodes.
Yeah.
And there was millions of people watching that.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure those people didn't wake up in the morning thinking, okay, I'm going to watch watermelon today. I'm going to spend almost an hour of my day. So
You know what it is though? I feel like that statistic might be completed because kids like that kind of stuff. I would say kids like that kind of stuff and they do tend to rewatch it.
Yeah.
And like then they go
Even
recommend.
rewatching, I mean, people make into memes. I did see some funny videos about that account. But people would literally watch or they'd watch a celebrity on Instagram Live for almost an hour.
I've never understood that. That's one thing that literally I can't. Because every now and then I go on a live and I just watch it for a little bit, for like 2 minutes, and I'm thinking, yo,
Yeah, there's no.
it just doesn't make sense. Why am I here right now? That's why I've never done like lives myself. But at some point, I want to like get back
I think
into.
only the people who have a lot of followers who know that they'll leave and come back as well. The only app that does it correctly, I think, is Twitter Spaces, because you can keep scrolling the feed, right?
Yeah.
Twitter Spaces.
Whereas Instagram, you're kind of trapped in Instagram.
Yeah, you have to be washing their face and doing the heart or something.
Yeah, and I think it is like people who just genuinely, they really get invested into that celebrity or whatever, and then they like make their life kind of about that.
Watch yourself, man. Like,
So like you said, auditing your time, really figuring out what you do with your time on a daily basis. Like that's the main way of just understanding why you think you don't have time throughout the whole day, because we all have the same 24 hours at the end of the day. Like everyone says.
there was some controversy about that.
Yeah.
Remember?
I think it was a Love Island girl.
Was it her or was it Molly May?
Molly May,
Yes,
wasn't she a Love Island person?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got no idea.
But yeah, she said we all have the same 24 hours. Obviously, she's really privileged.
Yeah.
But then I agreed with that. That's the thing. I didn't comment it because I knew I would get cooked. I would have got cooked. Fried.
I don't know what you would have said. you would have said she has a point.
Yeah, well, I wanted to say that so bad.
She's spitting.
But she was getting cooked. I was like, you know what? Let me keep my mouth shut. Back then, I didn't have that many followers, so I would have got cooked like bad. I would have deleted. But listen, good. There's no such thing as bad publicity. Sometimes.
Of course, because once on one hand, you can get a lot of bad publicity that grows your brand.
Impressions, yeah.
Yeah, you get a lot of impressions, but on the other hand, people start talking about you in a negative light, and that could affect the way your brand actually grows. Because then people are like, oh, here's that thread boy, here's that thread boy waffling again, yeah. And then their friends see that, so like it's natural to see your friends saying something negative about something, and you naturally have a negative impression on them as well. It's just natural.
It's so, I think it's
because people at the end of the day roaming gangs. Like nobody's like, no one's isolated completely. And like if you say something on Twitter and I read it, like I'm naturally inclined to like believe it almost until I think about it a bit more and research it.
You realize, oh, this guy's
and people just don't take that step to go and think about what they actually just read. So that's why there's a lot of like this like some
tweets.
Yeah,
quote tweet army.
Yeah, there's a lot of like backpacking onto someone. Like as soon as someone jumps, like says something, everyone else jumps on at the same time, and that's because of that. There's that extra step that, and people like drama. That's the thing as well.
People love drama.
People love drama,
especially on Twitter, where you just literally you read the whole thread. You read like sometimes the person who quote tweets the original poster gets more impressions than the original. Like what the hell?
Yeah. I found that like when I'm posting like graphic design content, like I've been active a lot more lately on like football Twitter because I want to get into like football design space, and like so I just post random jokes on the like random football personality comments, and that joke will get thousands of likes, and I'll go back to my post. I'm thinking, yo, but it's natural, isn't it? People just like drama, people like entertainment. So it's a natural way of marketing.
When you're growing on social media, a lot of people, and I used to always think that the following count is the biggest metric to use, but it's not. I think it depends on, like, you can have like 10k followers, but if those 10k followers aren't invested in what you're selling or what you're preaching, there's no point. Yeah. If you've got 3,000 niche followers that are in your ideal audience, that's what matters. Yeah. Then they'll buy whatever you sell.
Yeah, and that's what I see most often. That's why, like, you get all the people jumping on because they're so invested in that person and the way they think of their niche.
Yeah, personal branding is big, man.
Yeah, so you really have to capture your niche. But going back to auditing your time, he also mentioned something funny about. He said that his newborn son did something cute, and then the first instinct he had was to go and post it on Twitter. Yeah. And I thought that was interesting because every now and then I catch myself doing stuff like that where I'm like, yo,
I start recording. I'm like, yeah, it's normal.
Yeah, like not even getting your phone out recording. It's like, oh, you saw something, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna go make a tweet about this.
Sure, yeah.
And like that's not actually natural. Like when you think about it, like that's not something like you would do on a day-to-day basis in your real life, because you're kind of being conditioned to do that more and more often, and that's why people end up spending so much time on Twitter. In the beginning, it was like an unpaid role. He said unpaid role, but I found that funny because I was like, yeah, now 2023, you're getting paid for that kind of stuff. Yeah. So there actually is some value in thinking about random nonsense and then tweeting it. So it's a really weird world that we're going to live in.
The thing is, I mean, I've seen a few pages who completely rebranded after the ad revenue share came out.
Yeah.
But it's not like they changed it recently from like 5 million impressions to 15 million impressions. You know, I don't have that either.
They revoked that, you know.
Yeah, so it was 5 million.
Then 15 million.
3 months. Now 15 million.
Now it's 5 million again.
Oh, is it? It's gone back?
Yeah, gone back.
Okay.
Like a few days ago. Remember I told you on the first day that the monetization came out, I was like, this guy's going to change his mind every couple of days.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my days. I mean, he literally is.
He probably will do that again though. I think because he realized a lot of people have like 20, 30k followers and still ineligible for ad revenue. But if it's gone back, then I'm going to check.
It's really interesting because the idea of it now, he's making it into a complete complete platform for content creation, whether it's video, whether it's photography, whether it's articles, where no other space really had that before. So like now you can write articles and watch videos, full videos, and you can just show pictures of interesting stuff, and you can grow your brand regardless. So all of a sudden it's filled a niche, and even the idea there's a following page and a For You page now, and you can just scroll and like capture your attention even more. So like arguably Twitter right now is worse than TikTok, I would say.
I don't know. I still think
depends on the people you follow.
Worst app ever. You know why? Because TikTok, they don't even prioritize who you follow. I think they're changing it recently, but you'll be consistently shown random videos until you just stop scrolling.
I haven't found it to be the case though.
But Twitter, you can stop. Like I think on Twitter, the For You page, you can change it to your following and it will stay there.
Yeah, that's true.
Refresh. And of course, this is all text based most. If Twitter goes video based, then
which it is now, you can upload 2-hour videos for free. But yeah, there's a following page on TikTok as well. So I'm not arguing for either of them to be a positive thing anyway. But it's just every single social media platform now is just trying to capture your attention in every way. Like even me, I find now I'm not on my following page as often as I am on my For You page, which I end up seeing like a random nonsense that I don't want to see. But I also see more like entertaining stuff that'll keep me there for longer as well. So like I keep deleting it, reinstalling it.
Yeah, so what I did almost a week now, I didn't have it on my phone. So I deleted the app on my phone, Twitter, but I have it on my laptop, and I'm always on my laptop anyway. So I thought, why not just keep it there? And the biggest hack, just schedule your tweets out.
Yeah.
So literally a week before, schedule whatever, because you have a lot of good thoughts, or thoughts or ideas or threads you want to make. Do all in like 2 hours, 1 hour on a Sunday. Tweet it out. Then you have no excuse not to. You have no excuse to use the app afterwards, really.
I think the interesting thing about that is it's something that you can suggest for people that have a platform But for people without a
Oh,
platform,
for normal people, no.
few followers.
That's still weird.
nah, I'm talking about like people that want to grow their content creation brand, for example. I think having like, let's say sub 1,000 followers, I think that's very difficult now.
Yeah,
you have to really engage and really be involved in the app. So
even now, like, it's not even for big creators. You still need to engage with other bigger creators.
Yeah, exactly.
To get their following to become their own following.
So coming on to another topic, he talked about rest, practicing doing nothing. I think like nowadays, sorry,
I talk about that
because we like obviously if you're constantly in motion, like there's a significant lack of like just accepting your reality and like being mindful of your current environment and your situation. And things like auditing your time, these are like just mindfulness practices. And when you're not able to rest and do nothing at the same time, or even like just go for a walk and like not have your headphones on and listen to podcasts and audiobooks like I do, or people listen to music most of the time, like that's you not being mindful. That's you just escaping into another world and
consuming content
and not accepting what your reality is. And like I thought that topic was very interesting as well, because like if you don't practice that restfulness, by being at rest and doing nothing, you won't be able to appreciate like being busy as much. And that will mean that you also struggle to find more time. So when you're able to be mindful, you find more time, and then you can actually work on your priorities further. So I thought that was very interesting because I hadn't thought of that link before like that, you know. So yeah, have you? Like, how do you find like meditation? Have you ever tried meditation?
I
like,
have actually.
As Muslims, like we pray, and like prayer is meant to be a mindfulness activity.
Prayer
as well.
is meditation anyway.
Yeah, in some kind of way. Yeah.
But when I was working as a radiographer, I had access to Headspace, you know, the app.
Yeah.
So that was free, so I used it. This is back when I was living by myself.
Companies be like, we care about your mental health.
Here's
Headspace. But we're going to give you 60-hour work weeks.
And it was during COVID and everything. Yeah. So I didn't really need it. I wanted to try it because, all these YouTubers were talking about it. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And I tried it for like a week, 10 minutes a day. I worked my way up. It was like 5 minutes, then I worked my way up. The best lesson I learned from meditating is the art of literally thinking about nothing. So it was guided meditation. So he or she would kind of talk you through your breath and kind of like thinking about nothing or thinking about you on the beach and, all that hippie stuff, right? But the best way I found it was, after you pray or before you go to bed, turn off everything, no screens, no content, and just sit there and try and think about nothing but your breath. So all just dhikr. So that kind of helps you relax your mind from thinking about the future. So if you think about the future too much, which I kept doing, especially in my early years, you forget the presence, you forget what it means to kind of just be mindful of what you're doing now and how you're feeling. So another technique is journaling as well. So in the morning you write down what you're grateful for or what you want to do for the day, which I don't really recommend because if you do that, then you're again thinking about the future, right? So just think about how you're feeling right now and whatnot. I don't do that as much, but I think they're both similar practices you can use to just ground yourself.
And you talk about a whole bunch of other concepts as well, including having hobbies with no like monetary attachment. I remember you used to do photography a lot more. I don't see that as much now.
Man, I need to get back to it.
Like, what hobbies would you say you do now? Then, like what do you do in your free time?
Good question. Past couple of months, I don't have much free time unless it's traveling. So I guess I can say that. So traveling. So normally I try to put my head down and work for like 2 months on whatever goals I need. From there, travel, go to another country, a few weeks, a month or two. And then even though I still work during that time, it still feels a lot more restful because I'm not in the work environment. I'm not in London. I'm not in the hustle and bustle. I'm not in that grind environment. Yeah. But I'm somewhere else and it feels a lot more peaceful. Because then when I come back to London, I can go back to doing work. But usually what I like to do, and I need to get back to do it more, is a hobby, like I said, that has no monetary gain. So photography, in particular street photography, because I like landscape photography, but I can't really go outside London every day to do that. So going to central London, do some street photography is the best way to just literally just ground myself and just think about nothing but the art of photography. Sometimes I come out with some bangers, sometimes I don't. But it's nice just watching everyone go by and just watching the streets of London and the buildings and that's
There's a
it.
certain level of peace where you're just involved in that completely. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of other topics he talks about, like cultivating patience, being able to like just accept, like you're right now, you might be waiting for something, you're just gonna have to sit in it and wait for it and accept it. That's just a very important thing. Mindfulness again, embracing uncertainty. That's something that I've had to do a lot over the last couple of months.
Yeah. It's tough though, man. It's like especially when before you're like in your young age, you're always thinking about what you could be doing.
Yeah.
If something's uncertain now, like how's next year gonna look?
Yeah.
You know?
As a young person, I think we definitely yearn for that stability, and like everyone says, "Oh, what do you want to grow up to be?" And that's another whole thing as well. Like you can't expect everyone to just stick to one career for the rest of their lives, and like just having that condition growing up like repeatedly over and over, it kind of made us think about. I think it gave us a lot of anxiety as well about our futures, and that's where I see a lot of younger people like really procrastinating because they have a lot of fear around that uncertainty. What if I do go into this bootcamp and then I go into this job and I just don't like it, but I'm just stuck? Like,
you know what they say as well? Perfectionism. Like if you're afraid to start something because you might fail, that's kind of like perfectionism. Well, that's just another word for procrastination, isn't it? So
100%. And like it's just like you said, another word for it, and people don't see it that way.
They think, I want to keep doing this. I want to wait until it's perfect.
Until everything's ideal.
Yeah, that doesn't exist. You need to use data. So do the thing, experiment, see how it goes. Especially like, for example, I don't know, creating content, starting a first newsletter, starting a course in whatever skill you want to learn. Do it. See if you like it. See how far you get.
Yeah.
And you can always turn back. Like nothing's gonna happen. It's not like a uni degree where you're 4 years. You're stuck in 3 or 4 years, paying God knows how much.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit of your time which you would have spent otherwise doing. Let's face it, something that's not really that important.
And the book talks about more similar concepts, like choosing what you care about. Really, really think about what you really care about, and then go and pursue that with all your might. Because if you don't, you're just beating around the bush, half-hearted on anything you're doing, you're not going to achieve much. And if you see anyone that's successful and you ask them how they got to where they were, most of them is just pure focus and consistency. And to do that, you need to be mindful about your time. You need to do things like make stimulation for yourself more difficult. Like put your phone out of the room when you're sleeping, for example. Have an actual alarm clock. Loads of other ways of just like deleting Twitter is just little extra steps that you have to take to make those little stimulation efforts that your brain wants you to go down a lot more difficult. And
Embrace discomfort.
Yeah. So there's a lot of these like different concepts that the book talks about. So I thought it was really like genuinely insightful. But I think also like I feel like this book, it kind of read like a video kind of thing. So like I feel like if this guy had a YouTube channel, I'm sure he does already. I feel like a lot of these concepts could just be made into videos and you could absorb that a lot easier. But it's still nonetheless, I think people who read more, it's still nonetheless
a lot
very...
of what he talks about was in the podcast by that in Diary CVR. So a lot of the stuff that we've spoken about is there as well. I think he probably made it so a book that's a bit similar is Essentialism by Greg McEwen. And he has a weekly newsletter basically covering a snippet of the whole book every week, every Wednesday. So
interesting way of growing your brand.
That's a good way.
Cool. So you've got a background where you kind of preach about like productivity, improving the way you think and improving the way you work. After reading and consuming a lot of all this content, how would you say your workflow is on a day-to-day basis now? Then give the viewers a quick snippet.
So on a day-to-day basis, I try to have maximum 3 things I need to do, and those don't have to be work-related. So going to the gym could be one of them, or doing something that's basically non-work. The other 2 things or 3 things has to be work-related. And my day usually starts off in the morning. I try to get up at 6:30, if not 7. I don't like to stay in bed after that, after 7:30. Reason being, I'm more fresh. I feel a lot more alert in the mornings, getting more work done without this distraction. So no one's really on social media at 7 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. Family are asleep. People aren't really calling you. That's the best time to get 2 or 3 hours of deep work done. if I do that, the whole day feels a lot less stressful. If I get the hard stuff done, so eat the frog is what they call.
Yeah.
Is this technique doing the hardest thing
First.
in the morning, or doing the hardest thing first,
Yeah.
and then the rest of your day, because that's normally filled with meetings, going seeing people, other errands like live stuff, and then in the evenings, I try to plan what I'm doing the next day, or just kind of just general strategy work. So think about, okay, where's the business going? What have I done this last few weeks that will take it further, or auditing a time basically. And then that's it. Sometimes I do go over that. Like I do work more than later than 10 o'clock, which is always good. But
Yeah.
I think in the early days that's quite normal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you just gotta get stuff done, right?
Cool. So, what's next for you and Pivot2Tech?
So the new courses, and that's it for now. I'm not gonna say, because we're doing a few things that will announce soon, inshallah. But yeah, continuing. We are actually going to release a coding for kids course as well soon. Getting the kids learning the basics of coding, maybe going to schools, stuff like that. I think I've mentioned that before, but
cool. Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on. This has been Paper Trails, your boy Mohamed from Inspyre. If you like this episode, we do a lot of similar episodes where we discuss books with other random people, but it's always kind of what the guest suggests as well. So it can get really interesting when we do fiction and non-fiction books. But it also doesn't have to be books all the time. But yeah, try to force it on people every now and then just to keep the main foundation of the podcast alive. So yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, man. Likewise.
Thank you very much for coming on. And yeah, always welcome back, and long live Pivot2Tech. All right, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you in the next week.
Thanks for listening to the Paper Trails podcast. If you like this episode, please leave a review, comment, like, and subscribe. And be sure to follow us on all our socials.
Keep moving, keep growing, keep learning. See you at work.